Everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. We have it looks like I'm actually in a hotel. I'm actually in the Hilton Garden Inn in Watertown in Jefferson County. And it looks like a big place. And it is a relatively big place. We are very much social distance. Small crowd today, only a couple people today. So I wish you could have a larger crowd. Smaller crowd today, but still, I'm happy that you're here. That's great. And I'm happy that those of you who are watching. This is stop number 53 of 62 across the entire state of New York, trying to do the right thing by letting people know that we are still here. That we are here, and not only are we here as a real alternative, as the third party, as the only party that has actual answers, but one that actually cares. Viable for you to vote for and support, viable for you to vote for and support, viable for us to make change and impact in our country. One of the most important tenets, regardless of how you define yourself as libertarian, is the idea of not using violence. That is one of our number one tenets of everything else, right? At least not initiating violence, right? At least not that. That's one of our biggest tenets. And I want to bring up, very importantly, why that matters. Violence, and it's going to make some of you sound crazy. I think I'm crazy, but violence is often a very effective short-term solution. It is. I don't have money. Put a gun in someone's face, give me a wallet. I have money, short-term solution. Awesome, I now have money. In the long term, we have a problem. Long-term violence is always a bad idea. Short-term, great, and that's why we do it, because we care about that short-term solution. Let's just get that thing done. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples that you can really understand at the governmental level why it doesn't work. The war on drugs. The war on drugs sounds great. Let's put people in jail who smoke weed or do heroin or whatever the case may be, and see, we'll solve our problem. And what do you want them having? Initially, it does work. Initially, you have less people on the streets doing that because you put them in jail. And then the black market pops up, and then nothing but bad, bad, bad. Now, the idea of that violence has to be met with what? More violence. It has to be met with more violence and more laws and more pain, and everyone begins to suffer. Initially, it sounds great, and initially, it does work. Initially, the first months of the war, of course it works. You put them all in jail. Black market pops up, and it fails. I'll give one of the most massive ones that some of you know about. China's one-child policy. China has a problem. We have lots of people. Got it. Makes sense. Yep, lots of people. Okay, what should we do? Let's enforce a one-child policy. And if you have a second child, we either give you a forced abortion, or we stop, you can't have any more kids. We will literally use force to stop you from having children. Well, did it work? Short term, yes, absolutely. Short term, there were less births in China. Absolutely worked. And what did they create? An environment that they are so unhappy with right now. An environment to where literally you had signs in China along rivers that said, please do not drown your baby girls here. But again, not because they didn't want you drowning your baby girls, because that's where they got water. So please drown your baby girls down the river, right, where we're not getting our water. That was an environment they created. And they created an environment of the elderly becoming a secret state police. How are you going to check up on the young women who are getting married, right? Well, grandma, grandpa have to go around doing that. And now you have a secret state police within each village in China. But even worse, on top of all those bad things, now you have villages in China which are 3-to-1 male to female. How's that going to work? You have males who can't have relations with women, so how are they going to learn how to have relations with women? Now you have societies dominated by men even worse than they ever were, because there's just more men than women. You've encouraged sex workers in a culture that doesn't understand the idea of how to do it safely or correctly. So without question, you're going to increase things like diseases and abuse of women and everything else. Nothing but bad. Terrible idea. Again, sounds great up front. Let's use violence. But then, Larry, how do you solve your drug problem? It's a serious problem. Larry, how do you solve your high population problem? It's a real problem. You're right. Both of those are problems. So how do you solve the drug problem? By changing the environment to where people can be safer. Portugal tried it, worked pretty well. Not great, but better. We could try it too. If you all of a sudden decide, I want a carrot, not a stick, and decide that people in the right environment will do the right thing, as you begin to legalize drugs and make them safer, less people will be on the drugs and will have more safety. How do we know that? Alcohol. We did with alcohol, right? As we legalized and normalized alcohol, it became safer. The odds of someone drinking alcohol and going blind are slim to none now. That wasn't the case in 1925 or whenever it was, right? People went blind from drinking terrible alcohol. That doesn't really happen now, right? We've dealt with it now by dealing with things like, DUIs, DWIs. Now we have less people dying of drunk drivers than we've had in the past, right? It's gotten better. It's a long-term solution, but now a solution. But more importantly, if you're an alcoholic, you can go get help. If you're an alcoholic, you're not shunned and put into a drinking house, a crack house. You're not going to a bourbon house. That's not happening. You're going to actually go and get help. And people will help you and they'll care about you. Go, let me help you. If we did the same with drugs, it would change everything. It's a long-term solution. That's the right solution without violence. How do you deal with your population problem? Oh my God, I have women having 6, 7, 8 children. Simple solution. Educate your women. That's it. That's it. You want your women to not have 6, 7, 8 kids? I don't know. Open up an elementary school near them somewhere. And all of a sudden, educated women don't have as many children. They don't. It's a fact across every culture, across every single country. It doesn't matter. Educate your women, and they will have less children naturally, without government having to step in without any force. Will there be some women who would choose to be more traditional in how they have their marriage or the relationships and have more children? Of course, but that will happen no matter what, and that's fine. If that's what you want to do, makes you happy, you want to stay home and have many children, good on you, no worries. But as a culture, without any force, we'll have less kids. These are long-term solutions that don't require government force. What they require is the bully pulpit of an executive who will talk about this, an environment that says, let's not use force. Let's change our environment to make things better in the long run, not just tomorrow, not just for the next election. And this is what I've been talking about this entire trip. We have to vote gold this year. This year, we have to vote gold. Not for this year, for the future. We have to vote gold this year, not for this year, but for the future. We can make impact. People will see how valuable we are. There'll be a place for those who are in trouble to come to us. If we vote gold this year and show the entire country that we are viable and real, they will come to us. And we will have longer term solutions to make this country a better country in the long run, not just for next year. In the long run, not just for next election cycle. We'll have actual ideas and campaigns that will make our counties, our state, our nation a better nation. And the only people talking about this, the only ones, are people in the liberty movement. No one else is. They're all talking. We just gotta. They're at least scarcity mindset. I just gotta hold on against the evil Biden or the evil Trump, and that's it. And there's nothing else. I'm telling you, if we keep thinking that way, we're going to short-term think our way into oblivion. We are slowly walking into decay. It isn't the right answer. There are such long-term consequences to what we're doing now. And this is left and right. I'm going to enforce my will upon you, and we're afraid, and there's fear, and people who are afraid make bad decisions. You've all seen it. How did we get the Patriot Act? Afraid Americans. How did we get the war on drugs? Afraid Americans. How did we get the war on poverty? Afraid Americans. How did we get multiple wars in the Middle East? Afraid Americans. That's the common theme. When we're afraid, we do dumb things consistently again and again and again. So we could stop making people afraid, stop yelling about the other, and instead say, here are some actual answers. Here are some long-term solutions. And I would ask anyone out there who's watching, a few people came today, anyone else who's watching, if there was anything you were super proud of, anything you're really proud of, it was short-term pain for long-term gain, or you're not really proud of it. If anything in your life you've done, when you say to yourself, I'm proud of when I did that, I'm proud of accomplishing this, I'm proud of doing this thing. It was so super easy. You're not proud of that. You're proud of something where you took some pain on and you pushed through something and you got long-term gain. You're like, yes, I'm proud of that. Whatever that was, that's what you're proud of. Well, that's what we should be proud of as a nation. Not the short fix, not the quick gain, but the short-term pain for long-term gain. That's what we should be doing. We can do it, and only the Liberty Movement's talking about that. Only we're talking about that. If you care about that, if you really want change, you just don't want to live in fear, then instead come to us, Liberty Movement, and vote gold this year. Vote gold this year. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell the people out there, vote gold this year. We're going to vote gold for the future. Be bold. Vote gold. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day.